As I'm sure most of you know by now, Fire Emblem Three Houses is a game that allows its players to choose 4 different routes in their respective playthroughs, providing for unique and distinct experiences. Some parts of the game differ more on the route that you pick than others. I'm looking at you, White Clouds. But the subsequent endings of all 4 routes have radically different implications for the characters involved and all of Fodlan. So I thought it could be interesting to try and start a new series based on analyzing and discussing each respective ending and what it all implies in the long run. My goal in the series is to take a fair and honest look at each of the endings regardless of how I feel about them, to create the most clear image of the pros and cons of each ending. Because ultimately, the game is written well to where there's no general consensus within the community on which route is objectively the best, and most differing opinion on each route is resultant from personal philosophy more than anything. With all that out of the way, let's get into the fate of Fodlan after Claude's victory in the Golden Deer route. To understand the ending, first it's important to understand Claude's goals for Fodlan. Compared to the other house leaders, Claude's goals are relatively easy to understand, because he directly states them throughout the entirety of the game. He makes it clear that he wants to tear away at the prejudices and institutions of Fodlan with the purposes of opening it up to the rest of the world. So the ultimate goal of the Golden Deer route is to create a greater whole from the many different discordant parts of Fodlan. The Golden Deer house itself is actually a good microcosm of this lofty goal, as Claude points out.
After we defeat the Empire, I intend to tear down the walls that separate Fodlan from the outside world.
Would it even be possible to achieve such a thing? It directly contradicts the Sero's tenets.
Does it? I'm not so sure. In any case, I'm prepared for the inevitable protests and criticism. New ways of doing things are always met with resistance. During our time at the Officers Academy, all of you overcame the barriers of birthplace, status, and ideology. Having gone through so much with all of you, I have no doubt that, in time, you'll understand.
All the students in the Golden Deer house have distinct personalities and differing motivations that leaves the class seemingly unrelated thematically. Even the designs of the characters within the Golden Deer house exaggerate how different each character is from one another, with all the characters having vastly different body types and different Crayola hair colors. But the seeming thematic dissonance of the house is actually a part of the greater theme of unity from discordance that Claude is getting at. And in the end, even though the Golden Deer all come from vastly different backgrounds, they are able to work together to achieve Claude's dream. And the government of the Leicester Alliance at the start of the game seems to reflect the same theme of discordant unity that's found within the Golden Deer house, within its core structure. The Leicester Alliance resembles a merchant republic, similar to that of the Republic of Venice within medieval Europe, with both emphasizing the importance of nobility and the merchant class, but the Alliance seems to place far more power in the nobility due to the crest system. Funnily enough, Claude ends up being a good representation of the Alliance's values in his move towards globalism. Like the Leicester Alliance, Claude unites seemingly discordant groups of the world to live and work together, opening up for a slew of new cultural and economic exchanges. Just as the Alliance balances the interests of multiple different houses and the merchant class within a somewhat representative system, Claude is trying to create a similar system, only replacing the wills of individual actors with the wills of nations. Now, the legitimacy and benefit of such a globalized and integrated system is one that's certainly up for debate, but that will be addressed in the pro and con sections of the ending respectively. As far as dismantling the prejudicial institutions of Fodlan goes, the Golden Deer symbolically achieved this destruction in their victory over Nemesis and the 10 Elites, the people who were at the very root of the Fodlan institutions of crests and nobility. The ending cutscene then explains some aspects of the political landscape after the ending of the game.
A rising flame was alight as the flow of time carved a new history for Fodlan. The ambitions of the fell king Nemesis were crushed, averting what could have been the greatest crisis in the history of Fodlan. After 5.5 years of war, a new age was set to begin. Country, faith, history, all that had once formed the order of the world was wiped clean. The heroes whose very hands saved Fodlan from a dark fate commenced with the building of a new society. The leaders of this new, unified Fodlan began their walk down a seemingly endless path. One towards a world that would cherish differences in race and belief. One where all life would be valued equally. Those leaders clung to the hope that their path would not end with Fodlan, that it would someday span the seas to Dagda and beyond the throat to Elmira.
It's shown that Byleth and Claude move beyond the previous historical and cultural conflicts of Fodlan toward a new future of acceptance that would open up Fodlan to the entirety of the world. Finally, the paired ending with Byleth and Claude shows that Byleth reforms the church and that Claude was able to achieve his dream in Elmira as well. Then he brought the Elmirans to save the people of Fodlan, which created the solidarity necessary to unite the two nations. Those who slither in the dark and Nemesis are also thoroughly destroyed, making the new united Fodlan more stable and free from corruption than ever before. So now that we've addressed exactly what happens in the end of the Golden Deer route, we can get into evaluating the efficacy of Claude's new world by looking at some of its potential benefits and potential detriments, which can lead to some speculation and inference. First, we'll start off talking about the benefits of Claude's new world and the Golden Deer ending as a whole. There are certainly benefits to the Golden Deer ending that are resulted from achieving globalization. The benefits of Claude's globalization can be separated into cultural and economic benefits. The economy of Fodlan would benefit from far more open trade because of the relaxed trade restrictions of the Alliance. A merchant within Garreg Mach says as much towards the end of the Golden Deer campaign, because it seems that the Alliance is set up to favor free trade. The benefits of the Alliance's trade policy can be seen in its robust merchant class, because without a robust market, such a class of people couldn't succeed to the degree that they do. The success of the merchants within the Alliance can be seen in Ignaz and Raphael, and through the mighty Acheron's rise to prominence.
I did hear that some good-for-nothing inherited this territory. I guess that's you, then.
Who do you think you are? I'm not a good-for-nothing. You are!
If you were actually good for anything at all, I'd at least expect you to recognize who I am.
So, it's clear that a continuation of the Alliance's policies could help Fodlan overall, economically, but the real radical implications come from globalizing the world beyond Fodlan. Most endings imply that Claude is able to successfully unite Fodlan and Elmira to some extent, as well as a revelation that there are plans to extend such unity to other nations of the world. With more nations opening up for trade, the economy of Fodlan would invariably experience a lot of growth due to the greater efficiency of a global marketplace, where all goods would be produced at maximal efficiency. These are some inferences of the potential economic benefits that the new united Fodlan could experience beyond the game due to the precedents set by the established actions of the Alliance, as well as the intentions of Claude. The most appealing benefit of Claude's ending is the greater cultural unity and understanding that can be developed in the new united Fodlan that could potentially bring the world together. Claude even makes it clear that this is his main goal of his leadership when he talks to Byleth and Enbar.
I've told you about my dreams before. I want to break down the wall separating Fodlan from the outside world. The sight I want to see lies beyond that. Honestly, it's a trivial thing to fixate on. Just people, gathered in their towns, living out their lives together, sometimes laughing, sometimes fighting. But the people living there aren't just citizens of Fodlan. There are people from Dagda, Bridget, and even Dusker and Srang. There could be people who were born in Elmira, or countries even farther east there, too. All of those people living together like it's nothing special at all. That's the sight I long to see. It's so simple, but still so far away.
In Claude's dream, everyone in the world would be able to understand and learn from one another, creating a more peaceful and open world, which certainly sounds appealing at a first glance. That's not to say that there aren't problems with his conception, but we'll get into those when we're discussing the negatives. It's also worth noting that the Golden Deer House in general is a microcosm of Claude's greater cultural unity by showing how such disparate people from the Alliance can work together towards a common goal. Finally, Claude places Byleth as the ruler of a unified Fodlan, which seems to be a good call seeing as Byleth is effectively immortal and part god because of Sothis, and Claude becomes the ruler of Elmira. Because of Byleth's immortality and their relationship with Claude, it seems like the new system will have a certain degree of stability to it. While the Golden Deer route has a lot of benefits, it still has some weaknesses that can lead to a net negative in the long run. One thing that separates Claude and his vision from those of the other two house leaders is that his goals aren't operating in the same spectrum as Edelgard and Dimitri. This is good in that he's able to see beyond their quest of vengeance, but it's also bad in that he doesn't understand the issues of Fodlan quite as well as they do. Edelgard expresses this doubt in the Golden Deer Path when she says,
"Your ideals. I understand they're not so far removed from my own. But without sufficient knowledge of this land's suffering, I can't entrust Fodlan to you."
Claude does work to understand Fodlan better, but being from Elmira, he'll never quite be as immersed in Fodlan's culture, for better or for worse. While I talked about how Claude's globalization could be beneficial, it also has some aspects that one can interpret negatively. For example, it's unclear if Fodlan and Elmira could be united in the long run because of their vastly different goals and cultures. However, it is fair to point out that in Claude and Byleth's paired ending that Elmira's show of solidarity created a new age of unity. But it seems reasonable that at some point the conflicting value systems and cultural practices would need to be undermined to perpetuate such unity, and it's questionable as to whether or not the dissolution of those cultures is worth achieving. And as I noted before, this is symbolically done in the dope final mission of the Golden Deer, where you kill all the original crest bearers. It's also worth noting that Dimitri, Edelgard, and Rhea die in the Verdant Wind route, making it the worst route as far as surviving characters goes. And it's a shame to have those leaders and their institutions effectively fade away along with their noble ambitions. There also isn't that much initial benefit to choosing Claude over the others, because in all four routes Claude has the potential to go back to Elmira to achieve similar ends. I could see Dimitri and maybe even Edelgard being open to improving relations between Elmira and Fodlan. So Claude's dream doesn't necessarily die in the Crimson Flower and Azure Moon routes, but Dimitri and Edelgard's dreams definitely do die along with them in the Verdant Wind route. The results of the Golden Deer route don't only have large implications for the state of Fodlan, but also for the state of the world. It's not clear whether or not Claude's radical changes will improve Fodlan for its people, or even if it will provide some stability in the creation of his new global system. But it is clear that there are merits to Claude's values, and that it can potentially make the world a more understanding and free place. At the end of the day, it's impossible for everyone who played Three Houses to agree on which ending is the best, because each ending reflects different philosophical and political values that are still contentious in the world today. The contentious debates that some will have over which ending leaves the world better off is a testament to how good the writing of Three Houses is, where the goals of the leaders are understandable because of their varying worldviews, which are resultant from deep fissures in their respective value systems. So, hopefully this video continues and improves these discussions within the community, and I'll start looking into other endings of the game to see which ending really is the best, Fate of Fodlan. Thanks for watching the first video of my new series. I hope that you guys enjoyed it, so let me know what you thought of the concept and if you want to see more of this series. In making this video, I tried to keep my personal sensibilities out of the discussion of Claude's ending to provide a fair look into how the world could end up after the Golden Deer ending. I didn't quite go over every potential aspect and focused on what I thought were the largest implications, so feel free to discuss more in the comments, and thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Also, make sure to subscribe if you haven't already.